America's favorite TV daughter reveals the truth behind one of television's most iconic relationships. For nearly a decade, Sally Struthers played Gloria Stivic, the spirited daughter caught between her conservative father Archie Bunker and her liberal husband Meathead on the groundbreaking sitcom All in the Family. On screen, their contentious relationship defined the American culture war of the 1,970 seconds, but off-camera, the truth was far more complex. What really happened between Sally Struthers and Carroll O'Connor during those pivotal years? Why did she fight so desperately to leave the show that made her famous? And what shocking revelations has she finally chosen to share after 5 decades of silence? Stay tuned as we unravel the untold story behind television's most famous father-daughter relationship, a tale of love, loss, and the complicated truth about America's most controversial TV dad. When All in the Family premiered in January 1971, it revolutionized television forever. No sitcom had ever dared to tackle racism, politics, and social upheaval with such unflinching honesty. At its heart was Archie Bunker, bigoted, stubborn, yet somehow endearing, and his sweet daughter Gloria, who represented the progressive future, challenging his outdated worldview. Before we dive into Sally Struthers' surprising revelations, let's rewind to understand how a young actress from Portland, Oregon became entangled in one of television's most significant cultural moments. Born on the 28th of July 1947 in Portland, Oregon, Sally Ann Struthers was the second of 2 daughters born to Margaret Caroline and Robert Alden Struthers, a surgeon. Her comfortable middle-class upbringing was far removed from the working-class Queens neighborhood she would later inhabit as Gloria Stivic. Tragedy struck early in her life. In 1968, when Sally was just 21 years old, her father passed away, a devastating loss that would shape both her personal life and professional relationships in ways no one could have anticipated. With dreams of stardom, the young Struthers moved to Los Angeles and scored small roles, including a memorable turn in the Jack Nicholson film 5 Easy Pieces, 1970. Her expressive face and natural vulnerability caught the attention of casting directors, but steady work remained elusive. Then came a crushing setback. After landing a spot on the Tim Conway Comedy Hour, Struthers was suddenly fired after just 5 episodes. As she would later recall in interviews, network executives dismissed her bluntly, saying, "Get rid of that dancer girl. She makes the show look cheap." Devastated and uncertain about her future in Hollywood, Struthers nevertheless pushed forward. When an audition came up for a new sitcom being developed by an unknown producer named Norman Lear, she viewed it as just another opportunity, not the role that would define her career and forever link her with one of television's most controversial father figures. The audition process revealed an interesting twist. Rob Reiner's then-fiancée Penny Marshall was widely expected to win the role of Gloria, as she more closely resembled John Stapleton, who played Edith Bunker. Even Struthers herself believed Marshall was the natural choice, but when she read for the part, something clicked, a chemistry that 2 previous pilot attempts had failed to capture. When All in the Family premiered in January 1971, the initial response was tepid. CBS executives were nervous about the show's controversial content, and many viewers were uncertain what to make of Archie Bunker's outrageous prejudices. But summer reruns changed everything, exposing tens of millions of Americans to the Bunker household and transforming the cast into overnight sensations. For Sally Struthers, this sudden fame came with a surprising personal development. Having lost her father just years earlier, she found herself working daily alongside Carroll O'Connor, a cultured, educated man whose real-life warmth stood in stark contrast to his character's abrasiveness. Despite the 24-year age gap between them, a meaningful bond began to form. In 1968, my own father passed away, Struthers has shared in interviews. When I began working on All in the Family, I gained a father again in Carroll O'Connor. This father-daughter dynamic extended beyond the set. O'Connor, himself, the parent of an adopted son named Hugh, took a protective interest in the young actress. While Archie Bunker might have bellowed and blustered at Gloria on camera, between takes, O'Connor offered guidance and support to his television daughter. The on-screen chemistry between the core cast O'Connor, Stapleton, Struthers, and Reiner was electric. As Struthers would later recall, We got along as beautifully as anyone could have ever hoped. There wasn't any competition between us. We all revered one another because it was the perfect casting. But while the ensemble projected harmony on screen, behind the scenes, complex dynamics were at play. Struthers, the youngest and least experienced of the four leads, increasingly found herself feeling marginalized in the production. Her character often had minimal dialogue, reduced to what she would later describe as the same three lines in different orders. "I'll help you set the table, Ma. Michael, where are you going?" And, "Oh, Daddy, stop it." While Carroll O'Connor was fighting his own battles with producer Norman Lear over character development and script control, Struthers was struggling to find her voice both on and off camera. But these creative frustrations would soon pale in comparison to the personal challenges that lay ahead. The success of All in the Family grew beyond anyone's wildest expectations. The show topped the Nielsen ratings for 5 consecutive years, and in 1972, Struthers won her first Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a comedy series. On the surface, her career was thriving. Behind the scenes, however, a storm was brewing that would eventually push her to take dramatic action against the very show that made her famous. But there was one ominous development no one could have foreseen. As the show's popularity exploded, an unexpected rift was forming, one that would cast a shadow over Struthers' relationship with the production team, if not with her television father himself. By the 5th season of All in the Family, Sally Struthers had reached her breaking point. What viewers at home couldn't see was a young actress increasingly frustrated with her limited role and what she perceived as unequal treatment behind the scenes. According to Struthers' recent revelations, a stark division existed in how the cast was treated. While O'Connor, Stapleton, and Reiner were regularly invited to producer Norman Lear's home for dinner parties, Struthers claims she never received a single invitation during the show's 8-year run. "It didn't feel good," she admitted decades later. This sense of being the outsider, what Struthers has recently described as being the fourth banana on set, was compounded by creative frustration. As Gloria Stivic, Struthers felt trapped in a one-dimensional role that failed to utilize her range as a performer. While Carroll O'Connor was allowed to develop Archie's character with depth and complexity, Struthers believed her character remained stagnant. These frustrations culminated in an extraordinary decision. After the 5th season, Struthers attempted to break her contract and leave the show altogether. What followed was a costly legal battle that would drain her finances without securing her freedom. "I spent $40,000 in lawyer fees," Struthers has revealed. The equivalent of nearly $200,000 today. This represented an enormous financial gamble for the young actress. Unfortunately for Struthers, she lost the case and was forced to return to All in the Family for 3 more seasons. What drove this drastic action? Multiple explanations have emerged. Over the years, some industry insiders suggest Struthers' primary motivation was artistic integrity. By the mid-1970s, she had won critical acclaim and wanted to explore new roles while at her career peak. Her limited lines and character development on All in the Family felt increasingly constrained to an actress eager to prove her range. Supporting this theory is the fact that immediately after leaving the show in 1978, when her contract finally ended, Struthers pursued diverse projects rather than similar sitcom roles. She appeared in television movies tackling serious issues like domestic violence, suggesting a desire for more challenging material. Other sources point to interpersonal tension, particularly with producer Norman Lear. Recent interviews have shed new light on this theory, with Struthers making the startling claim that Lear once told her, "We hired you because, just like Carroll O'Connor, you have blue eyes and a fat face." This alleged comment, coupled with what Struthers describes as systematic exclusion from social gatherings with other cast members, suggests a more personal dimension to her dissatisfaction. Some reports indicate that while Struthers maintained a warm relationship with O'Connor, tensions with production staff created an increasingly uncomfortable work environment. It's worth noting that Struthers wasn't the only cast member to clash with Lear. Carroll O'Connor himself had a notoriously contentious relationship with the producer, including a contract dispute that nearly ended the show in its 5th season. According to biographer Trip Wetzel, O'Connor and Lear had a difficult, contemptuous relationship, though one undergirded by mutual respect. Whatever the truth, Struthers' failed attempt to leave the show marked a turning point. Contractually obligated to return for seasons 6 through 8, she found herself in the uncomfortable position of working on a show she had actively tried to escape. Yet, ironically, Struthers now describes these final 3 seasons as by far the most fun of her time on the series. During this period, Gloria and Mike had a baby and moved next door into the Jeffersons' former home, giving her character more substantial storylines. The question remains, was this enhanced role a response to her legal challenge, an olive branch from production, or simply the natural evolution of the show? As the 8th season concluded in 1978, both Struthers and Reiner left the series, bringing the original All in the Family to its end. O'Connor would continue as Archie in the spin-off Archie Bunker's Place, while Struthers would eventually headline her own short-lived spin-off, Gloria, in 1982, notably produced without Norman Lear's involvement. But the most revealing chapter of this story would remain untold for decades, until Struthers finally decided to break her silence. In January 2025, at age 77, Sally Struthers appeared on the podcast Let's Talk About That with Larry Saperstein and Jacob Bellotti, and made headlines with explosive revelations about All in the Family that she had kept private for over 50 years. Perhaps most shocking was Struthers' claim that Norman Lear, the celebrated producer who died in December 2023 at age 101, had not created All in the Family at all. According to Struthers, Lear stole the idea from Carroll O'Connor and then pretended for the next 52 years that he created it. This allegation directly challenges the widely accepted narrative that Lear adapted the show from the British sitcom Till Death Us Do Part. While Lear is no longer alive to respond to these claims, they align with O'Connor's long-standing assertions that he significantly shaped the show's development, including substantial uncredited rewrites of the scripts. Struthers also spoke candidly about what she perceived as Lear's favoritism toward other cast members and her feelings of being undervalued. All those years on the show, Norman and his wife would have dinner parties, she revealed. They would invite the other stars of the show, Carroll O'Connor, Gene Stapleton, and Rob Reiner, and their spouses often. I wasn't, in 8 years, invited to his home. These revelations shed new light on Struthers' previously unexplained battle to leave the show at the height of its popularity. What had seemed like a puzzling career move now appeared as a young woman's desperate attempt to escape a hostile work environment, one where she felt consistently marginalized despite the show's success. Struthers' timing is significant. Her decision to speak out came shortly after the publication of Wetzel's biography, The Life and Times of Norman Lear, which documented the producer's difficult relationship with O'Connor. With both Lear and O'Connor now deceased, Struthers may have felt freed from decades of industry pressure to maintain a united public front about one of television's most celebrated shows. The podcast interview represented more than just a settling of old scores. It offered a reframing of television history through the perspective of a young actress who found herself caught between powerful men in an industry dominated by male producers, writers, and executives. Most poignantly, Struthers' revelations highlighted the contrast between her professional frustrations and the genuine paternal bond she formed with O'Connor. Despite the behind-the-scenes turmoil, the father-daughter relationship that blossomed between them remained authentic, a rare instance where life behind the camera mirrored rather than contradicted what viewers saw on screen. Following her departure from All in the Family in 1978, Sally Struthers' career took a different trajectory than many might have expected. Rather than capitalizing on her fame as Gloria with similar sitcom roles, she diversified her talents, taking on voice acting in animated series like Tailspin and The Pebbles and Bam Bam Show. In 1982, CBS launched Gloria, a spin-off following the adventures of a newly divorced Gloria Stivich working as an assistant veterinarian in a small New York town. Tellingly, Norman Lear was not involved in this production. Despite initial interest, the show lasted just 1 season, a fate shared by many spin-offs attempting to capture the magic of their originals. Struthers later found renewed television success with her recurring role as Babette on Gilmore Girls and continued to work extensively in theater, touring in productions of Annie, Grease, and Hello, Dolly. However, to millions of Americans, she remained perpetually Gloria Stivic, Archie Bunker's little girl. Her relationship with Carroll O'Connor endured beyond the show's conclusion. When O'Connor died in 2001 at age 76 from complications related to diabetes, Struthers attended his funeral alongside Rob Reiner, Norman Lear, and other All in the Family alums. Gene Stapleton, still performing on stage, was notably absent due to prior commitments. The decades following All in the Family saw substantial shifts in how the entertainment industry treated younger performers, particularly women. The struggles Struthers faced limited character development. Feeling marginalized in a male-dominated production would become rallying points for subsequent generations of actresses, demanding more agency in their careers. As for Norman Lear, he continued to produce groundbreaking television, including The Jeffersons, One Day at a Time, and Maude. His status as a television pioneer remained largely unchallenged until Struthers' recent allegations regarding the creation of All in the Family. While it's difficult to assess these claims fully, they highlight the often contested nature of creative credit in Hollywood productions. From an industry perspective, Struthers' revelations offer valuable insights into television's transition period of the 1,970 seconds. Shows like All in the Family broke new ground in content while still operating under traditional power structures that often sidelined young talent, particularly women. The contrast between the show's progressive messaging and its reportedly traditional behind-the-scenes dynamics underscores the complex reality of an industry in transition. Perhaps most significantly, Struthers' willingness to speak openly about her experiences contributes to ongoing conversations about workplace dynamics in entertainment. Her story reminds us that even beloved productions can harbor difficult truths, and that the passage of time sometimes provides the only safe space for those truths to emerge. Today, at 77, Sally Struthers continues to work selectively in television and theater. In 2024, she joined the cast of the Netflix series A Man on the Inside, starring Ted Danson, introducing her talents to yet another generation of viewers. Her recent candid interviews suggest a woman at peace with her past but determined to reclaim her narrative. For All in the Family fans, Struthers' revelations have prompted a reassessment of a show long celebrated for its progressive impact. The sitcom remains a landmark achievement in television history, but like many creative endeavors, its legacy now includes a more nuanced understanding of the complicated human relationships behind its creation. The relationship between Struthers and Carroll O'Connor stands as the most poignant aspect of this story. While O'Connor's character Archie Bunker represented the prejudices of an older generation, the man himself provided genuine paternal support to a young actress who had recently lost her father. This reality that authentic connection can flourish even in challenging professional environments offers a hopeful counterpoint to the more troubling aspects of Struthers' experience. As for the tension with Norman Lear, it serves as a reminder that even celebrated visionaries have complicated legacies. Lear's contributions to television are undeniable, yet Struthers' account suggests that his treatment of those under his authority didn't always align with the progressive values his shows espoused. Perhaps most importantly, time has vindicated Struthers' creative frustrations. Her character Gloria, initially limited to reactions against Archie's provocations, is now recognized by critics as an essential representative of the women's movement within the show's narrative framework. What Struthers perceived as creative limitations were, in fact, structural constraints common to women's roles in that era, constraints she helped to identify and challenge through her own career choices. The story of Sally Struthers and Carroll O'Connor reminds us that what we see on our screens is only part of the truth. Behind the laughter and tears of All in the Family lay a complex web of relationships, some strained, others nurturing, all profoundly human. For a young woman who lost her father and found a surrogate in her television dad, the journey was never simple. Yet through creative frustration, legal battles, and decades of silence, an authentic bond remained, one that transcended both Archie Bunker's fictional prejudices and the very real challenges of 1,970 seconds Hollywood. As viewers, we're left with a richer understanding of a groundbreaking show and the real people who brought it to life. Their story, like the show itself, defies simple categorization, containing both moments of genuine connection and troubling inequality. artistic triumph, and personal struggle. If you found this exploration of All in the Family enlightening, please consider subscribing for more deep dives into television history. And share your own thoughts in the comments below. How do Struthers' revelations change your perception of this iconic show? After all, the conversation about what happens behind our favorite shows is just as important as the shows themselves, because understanding the full story helps us appreciate the complex humanity behind the characters we invite into our homes.